talk about two new events that just happened this week. Now, there was a third event that happened just a couple of weeks ago. If you remember, there was a mom who had been victimized with break-ins at her house. She got a surveillance camera. She got a gun. She protected her children from 3 thugs who were trying to do a home invasion. And the police caught the guy. She ran them off, and the police caught them. What would happen in a place like New York or Chicago? Well, that mom would be a criminal in the first place for even getting a gun to defend herself. And they probably wouldn't have caught the criminal. They usually don't. And then they would have arrested and prosecuted her. But as I pointed out in that video, just this last week in Detroit, you had a woman who had a concealed carry permit, shot and killed a man who was attempting to carjack her vehicle. In another case, you had a homeowner who shot to death a teenager who was trying to break into his home. And as the police chief pointed out, he says, you're confronted with an immediate threat to your safety. You're not going to have time to deal 911. It becomes an issue of the threat is here. I have to respond to the threat. He gets it. We all need a police chief like that. Fortunately, we're starting to win this war. We're starting to see several law enforcement officers like police chiefs starting to say that. We've got a police chief here in California. We got another article who is, this police chief is Police Chief Dan Bressler. Now, he's in the Palm Springs Valley area. He says that the crime rate there in his town is more than double the national average because there's a lot of drug gangs there. And of course, that's the real root of the problem is the government's war on drugs, creating a prohibition-style atmosphere. When was the last time we had people shooting automatic machine guns, Tommy guns, riding the cars through the streets? That was during alcohol prohibition. Now you're starting to see that level of violence start to come up in some of the larger cities where they have prohibited guns. But he says, this is a police chief from California now. He says, it's time for us to issue concealed weapons licenses to law-abiding people of this city. I believe this will deter crime and help people feel safer. Absolutely right. Now, this police chief from Detroit, his name is James Craig. He's been in the news before. He was a police officer in California, and he believed that gun control made the city safer. Then he went to Vermont, and he got an education there. And then when he became police chief in Detroit, he brought that with him. He understood that guns in the hands of lawful, peace-abiding people makes the city safer. It makes his job easier, and he can focus on catching the criminals instead of just cleaning up the mess when people are attacked and killed. What do you think about that, Anthony?
Well, I think there's this grand delusion that so many people are against guns, against legal firearms, and that there's so many, with Moms Against Guns and all of that, there's so many activists, or if you call them activists, who really are against the legal ownership of firearms. But that is a complete and utter lie. We have the statistics we're going to get into on this segment. We have the reality, the video, the showing what the real anti-gun people are like in the Alamo protest where we went to, myself and Alex, and you actually there as well.
Yeah.
We saw the real face of those who wanted to ban firearms. I mean, they got up in our faces. The guy tried to fight Alex and threatened him and said, come on, punch me in the face, punch me in the face.
Well, you and I were there for a long time, walking around, even trying to find them. There were literally over 1,000 gun owners there to talk about open carry. And there was like 3 or 4 people there for moms demanding action or whatever. And they were so far away from the rally. They were supposed to be there as a counter rally. They were so far away and so few in number. You and I walked around for a long time trying to find them. Of course. Then we went back, got in the car, and started looking for them again. Finally, we found them, and there was essentially nobody there.
Well, the New York Times was trying to find them as well as Al Jazeera. And then when they did find them, they acted like they had such a strong presence there.
Yeah.
The local news did report, and they reported on what we were doing too, that there was virtually no one there for their protest and all of the people that went out to the open carry march at the Alamo in San Antonio. But I do want to get into, in the next segment, specifically, we can touch on a little bit here, what I call the Hollywood con syndrome, and how at a societal root level, this is literally the explanation, I believe, for what we're seeing with all this insanity, with the South by Southwest scenario promoting gun control, with Facebook coming out and saying that any page that promotes guns in any capacity, posts pictures of guns, even if it's a gun store, whose livelihood relies on the posting of weapons, legal firearms for citizens of this country.
That's how they want
being shut down.
That's how they want to win the debate in social media. They didn't talk about that. How the way they intend on winning the media is by completely shutting down and censoring the other side. Also by demonizing it and scaring people about guns and gun owners. But just take them off of Facebook. That kind of helps if you don't have anybody who's pro-gun allowed to say anything or show anything on Facebook. It kind of helps your social media campaign, doesn't it?
They've accepted their defeat. They've accepted that according to Gallup, only 4% of Americans think gun control is an important problem. And we'll get into how they actually care about the economy. 16% are completely dissatisfied with government, and it's just this small poll as the #1 thing. 16% say government needs to go.
Yes. But well, I think it's interesting, this Moms Demand Action. It's really Moms Demand Confiscation. They initially started out as the Million Mom March. And because of lack of participation and nobody showing up, because they don't speak for moms. You know who speaks for moms? Sometimes it's the moms who are having their car carjacked, the moms who are defending their kids from a home invasion. What speaks for them is a loaded shotgun and you know, taking care of themselves. But they can't win this debate. And you've got papers like The Guardian, where they show the picture at the very top of the article. They've got everybody crowded together with signs. It looks like they've got a large crowd there. But when you go to the bottom of the article, you see this picture that we put up on InfoWars, where you see that they don't even have 3 rows of people.
Oh, yeah.
They've got just a few people, and that's 3 gun control groups. So between 3 gun control groups, they can't even fill up 3 rows of seats.
No, because it's all fake. It's all the Hollywood con syndrome, where it's all bloated and they act like it's real based on fear and emotion. But the reality is that no one supports it logically at a statistical level. Now, we're going to play that video coming up where Alex and I are talking to this Moms Demand Action group, which had like 3 people there, a woman, her husband, and their friend. And they were saying, no, we don't want to ban guns. We don't want to ban guns. We just want to have active gun control to stop crime. But if you look, we actually have one of their pamphlets. The first thing, it says require background checks for all gun and ammunition purchases. Number 2, it says ban assault weapons and ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Ban assault weapons.
Yes.
So they were saying, well, we don't want to ban guns. And we're saying, well, you want to ban assault weapons.
And you notice that they're going after ammunition as well.
Oh, of course.
And that's been a big part of this. One of the quotes that they had in this Guardian article was, one of these gun controllers said, you know, the problem in the United States is that there's more guns in the U.S. than there are people. Does he have a problem with the fact that Department of Homeland Security is buying 10 bullets for every person in the United States? I have a problem with that.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.
You back up.
No, I'm not going to back up. Good. You're the one got in my space.
You know,
look at this. Look at this guy.
Stop.
All right, go ahead. You listen, I don't want to beat an old guy up, so don't touch me, all right?
This guy could take you out in a heartbeat.
I bet he could. I'm not violent.
Why do you think it's okay to sell a gun to someone that you don't know that's not been through a background check?
Should we have a background check for bathtubs every time we take a bath?
We should have a background check for guns.
Should we have a background check for knives?
Well, what you're listening to is a confrontation in San Antonio, the open carry rally.
Have you read
this? Was Alex Jones and Anthony Gucciardi talking to the 2 or 3 people there that were for, I guess they were originally from the Million Mom March. They had to kind of scale it down since they couldn't get a million people.
There.
Yeah,
they were 2 out of 3 people that were there.
That's right.
Unfortunately,
there were thousands of people there marching for open carry, and these people were probably a mile or 2 away. We had took us a long time to find them.
Well, me and David actually embarked on a journey of our own in the beginning. While Alex was finishing up speaking there, we said, hey, you know what? Let's go find those million moms because we want to talk to them and do some video. We saw a few different people we thought were them, but they were running for cancer or something. There was like 20, 30 of them, and we couldn't find them. We kept saying, where are they? They said, well, they're like down there a mile or so. Eventually, we get there, and there's like 3 people in a bar tent drinking martinis or something with this huge banner, Moms Against Guns or whatever it is. And we ended up talking to them. And out of all the people, we talked to all these open carry people with huge, AR-15s and everything. They were really nice, excellent people. Out of all the people we talked to, the moms against guns were the most violent.
Yes,
if you were able to watch the video online through Infowars.com/show, you would have seen that guy going up to Alex. He was like smacking his wife away and everything when she was trying to defuse the situation, trying to fight Alex. I talked to him a little bit as well and asked him if we should have background checks to purchase knives, and asked them why they wanted to ban weapons. They kept saying they didn't, when number 2 point on their little pamphlet is ban assault weapons.
Yeah, yeah. But they want to track the sale of ammunition and guns online. They want to have child-safe gun technology, and they want to require background checks for all gun and ammunition purchases. I mean, this is their agenda. They're really moms demanding confiscation, but it's just a handful of them. And the sad thing about it was that as angry as this man was and his wife, they were angry. Their daughter had been killed in a shooting incident, but they were blaming legal gun owners. And that was the point that Alex was trying to make to them, is that if your daughter was killed in an automobile accident, you wouldn't try to ban automobiles, would you? Or if they died in a bathtub, which is more likely. If you've got a bathtub in your home, you're much more likely to die there than you are to get shot. So should we ban all bathtubs or all cars? No, we try to take measures to treat people as if they're innocent until proven guilty in America. And we have some fundamental rights to protect ourselves. And just as we were talking about earlier in the last segment, we played the Detroit police chief, and there have been 3 incidents in Detroit where citizens have defended themselves, and he understands that calling 911 is not an option. You can call 911 and try to get these guys to catch the bad guys, but that isn't going to protect you in the meantime. And the police chief in Detroit understands that. These people don't.
Well, you know, it goes exactly, you did an excellent segue. We didn't even talk about this before, going into exactly what I wanted to talk about. To give you one example of this, and I want to get into the grand spectrum of it, and also later I want to reveal how I think they're going to attempt to disarm the Second Amendment, not through gun control, but through a new biotechnology option that will go into transhumanism and everything. But basically, for right now, for the softer end of this, I wanted to talk about what I called the Hollywood con that I mentioned earlier. And the gun control example is perfect fitting for this. Here's why. 980,000 or so, according to the Journal of Criminology, attacks, potential homicides are prevented with firearms, you know, legal firearms within the United States of America. Right. But then you ask someone, as I did one time on a video that went really big, I asked someone, how many people do you think die each year from assault weapons? You know, and he said, I think 30,000 people, he said. I think 30,000. Some people said, I think 90,000. It's you know, actually like 300 or something like that. It's very low. Actually, you know, knives kill more people. Bats and hammers kill more people. But then you ask, you know, why is there not major media attention on knives, hands and fists and everything like that going after them, or automobiles or pharmaceutical drugs, which kill like 700,000 people a year? Well, it's all because of this con system where it's not based on logic or statistic, but instead it's based on fear and emotion. And any successful politician throughout history, from Caesar to Obama, has utilized this technique in full force. And specifically, I'm talking about smart politicians using emotions to trump logic in every single case. Now, this can be done thanks to Hollywood. Hollywood reinforces this point. Now, specifically what I'm talking about is, take the Occupy movement, for example. No real goals, no real statistic behind what they're doing, no real logic. They're frustrated, they're scared, and they're overall just exuding elements of upset. You know, they're angry. And what were they trying to accomplish? Well, who really knows? They were just out there just protesting, and it wasn't a horrible thing. A lot of them were Obama fans. But then you have things like the gun control fanatics who obsess over media fear, who obsess over CNN telling them how bad assault weapons are. And how does that happen? Well, Obama goes on air, or Caesar at the time would go on air and say, you know, it doesn't matter the statistics, doesn't matter the reality. Someone killed a bunch of children today, or, you know, something happened with an assault weapon today. And even though it's an isolated, illogical incident that has no relevance to the overall hierarchy of real mathematics of what's going on when you consider how many thousands of people are saved, it does not matter. It's all based on fear and emotion.
And they do that by making a personal story out of it. They make it visceral, they make it emotional because they tell a personal story. It's like I think it was Stalin that said, one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic.
Yes.
If we throw statistics out there, it doesn't do anything to people. They very cleverly understand that they can use a story. They can get one person up and say, tell us your story about how you were shot at or
of course,
somebody that you know that died.
And the show House of Cards does a great job with this. When Kevin Spacey goes up numerous times in the face of real scandal, in the face of real serious corruption and crime, and he starts crying and everything and just tells this amazing speech and all is forgiven. That's how it really works in real life. But
or Nixon's Checkers speech.
Yeah,
my little dog Checkers. Yeah.
Exactly. They're desperately afraid of us. Why? Because we bring information to the centerfold, not logic or fear, just complete information. All the articles we're doing, all this research, it's all linked up with all these sources and everything. It's all hard information. Someone can go in there and prove things. Someone can go in there and look at it. That's what Alex is doing here on a daily basis. That's what we're doing. We're showing the information as the center point, as the crux of all of it, instead of this fear and illogical madness. And Hollywood backs up the Hollywood con, because what they do is predictive programming, as we were talking about before. But specifically, Hollywood likes to paint everything as just this ride of emotion and fear and craziness instead of reality. It's just like the movie Contagion or however you say it, where the one guy in the beginning, basically the idea is this mass flu breaks out and is killing everyone except for a few people that are resistant to this strain of the flu. But then there's this guy with horrible teeth, because he has to, he has to look evil, who presents himself, oh, natural medicine can help. Which actually it can. Over and over again, we find that natural medicine like garlic can wipe out superbugs.
Yes.
And he says, I can help you. And they all, are kind of resistant, but they believe him. And it makes it appear as if he's curing the flu throughout like the whole movie. But then at the very end, like the very last minute of the whole movie, when this guy is actually helping, it looks like he's helping people. At the very last minute, he's like, yeah, they didn't actually help. I just wanted money. And they put him in jail and give everyone a vaccine and they're cured.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the insanity of it.
It's predictive programming. It's putting a template out there. And it is very, very powerful. Even the Batman movie, where they show a terrorist attack collapsing the football stadium and the guy is running and everything is collapsing behind him. You see it collapsing and you're wondering if it's going to suck him down. He doesn't see it. He's just running and he stops and turns around. Now, that's a movie, but they put that out there. And then when people go to the NFL games and they get treated like slaves, have hands put all over them, tell them, you can't bring in anything in here unless it's in a transparent little box. And they subconsciously, I think, will go back to, yeah, that's right. Yeah, something like that could happen. You know what I'm saying? It plants that into your subconscious or even into your conscious. You consciously think about that. And it's very, very effective to do that.
It's multi-pronged. There's a web. Looking at South by Southwest, a lot of these people there, I was down in Austin actually talking to some of them today. A lot of them are literally conned by Hollywood, by the establishment, and they believe that they're going to South by Southwest, and if they pay $1,200 for a badge to go to some event function where corporations are trying to sell them the latest gadgets, that they're going to somehow become big and they're going to become celebrities. Or if they can go find out the place where Kevin Bacon went today, which is a huge thing everyone was talking about, and sit next to him and taking a picture with their iPhone or something, they could be cool and they could be in proximity to power, which leads them to believe that they have power.
Yeah.
And that is the whole delusion. The system deludes people so they don't actually have success, so they don't actually have inspiration and passion. And instead, they follow this Hollywood con from worshiping Obama and believing that he's actually looking out for our best interest, to listening to the mainstream media, to trying to become the establishment and not realizing it's all a joke con game. You're not going to become some big celebrity by going to corporate functions and shelling out tons of dollars to go walk around and, celebrity hunt.
It's kind of like 6 Degrees of Separation with Kevin Bacon. Just buying a ticket and going to South by Southwest doesn't make you.
You are now associated with Kevin Bacon. You might as well be an A-list celebrity. But a lot of them, though, the good news is this is a message of victory. This is a message, a red alert success message to keep pushing on.
Now you can watch the Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
We've just been talking about how they use that to control the public, to essentially manufacture consent. And of course, an important part, Anthony, of manufacturing consent is to make sure that what they're telling us is really working. And so they have to surveil everything that we do. Now, one of the people that was at South by Southwest, we've been talking a lot about the gun control groups that were meeting there that really didn't have anybody show up to their presentation. Even though there's 3 gun control groups, they couldn't fill up 3 rows of people, even with the press there. But we did have Julian Assange speaking via Skype there, and he had an interesting comment about privacy. What he said here is, what's going on is an unprecedented theft of wealth from the majority of the population by those who already have a lot of power. And they're doing this in part by stealing information from all of us. Knowledge is power, and they're accumulating a lot of power. When I look at the way that they're trying to manipulate us through social media, and that was what this meeting at South by Southwest on gun control was about. It was about manipulating the public through social media by making sure that people can't say or put anything up about guns on Facebook at the same time that they're going to use it to put their side of the story out. It's a massive transfer of power. They're trying to control people, and they also want to see if people are buying their message. That's really what all this metadata is about, isn't it?
Their actions signify a message of victory and success, because we see them scurrying, freaking out, teaming up with Facebook to censor everyone posting pictures of themselves with weapons. By the way, I did that today. Great response. Everyone needs to fight back against Facebook, who's saying you're not allowed to post pictures of firearms, even if you're a gun shop. You're not allowed to do anything with firearms because they've teamed up with these Moms Against Guns and everything. You're not allowed to do that anymore. I've started doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. Everyone needs to do that to fight back. It's the Streisand effect. When someone actually tries to censor someone, it ultimately becomes larger. So ultimately, what's come now is South by Southwest, the owner, as Alex was talking about earlier in the show, in the very beginning, has tried to come down on legal firearm owners by setting up all these events, these anti-gun events, and it's fallen flat on its face.
And one of the groups that was there was Bloomberg's Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which a lot of mayors have blown the whistle on as well. But of course, he was there at the South by Southwest event, and he is the one who's working with Facebook to try to make sure that they censor any information about guns. Yeah, it's just not going to work. It's going to go the same direction that Piers Morgan went.
That's
when
exactly
they tried to shove things down everybody's throat. What happened to them? If Facebook tries to do this, you're going to see Facebook plummet as a platform.
Exactly right. And they're not going to be able to contain all the people posting pictures of guns, legal firearms, and all the reality and statistics. In fact, instead of just posting ourselves with guns, which we should do, and I've already begun doing, we should start posting the statistics over and over and over and over again so people see the statistics, because that's what they're ultimately afraid of. They don't want to talk about logic or reason or statistics, as I talked about earlier. They want to censor everyone and make everyone afraid of assault weapons because they're scary looking. But it reminds me now, they're losing, and they know they're losing. We're going to get into how the scientists now admit that Fukushima has already hit the West Coast and it's already coming in waves. We told you that 2011, 2012. We were called crazy. And Obama, we're going to play the clip of Obama saying that that would never happen. But specifically, you were telling me at CPAC, a journalist was detained for just trying to get a book signed. And that, tell us.
Yeah, this is Dan Dix from Press for Truth. And he was in line. He had a book that was written by Newt Gingrich, and he wanted to get Newt Gingrich to sign his book, and he was going to get a quick question in to Newt Gingrich because, of course, if you're an alternative journalist, you're not going to get an audience with His Majesty. That's the way they control the press, is through access.
You are watching the best of the Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of InfoWarsNews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.
Level of violence start to come up in some of the larger cities where they have prohibited guns, but he says, this is a police chief from California now. He says, it's time for us to issue concealed weapons licenses to law-abiding people of this city. I believe this will deter crime and help people feel safer. Absolutely right. Now, this police chief from Detroit, his name is James Craig. He's been in the news before. He was a police officer in California, and he believed that gun control made the city safer. Then police chief Dan Bressler. Now, he's in the Palm Springs Valley area. He says that the crime rate there in his town is more than double the national average because there's a lot of drug gangs there. And, of course, That's the real root of the problem, is the government's war on drugs, creating a prohibition-style atmosphere. When was the last time we had people shooting automatic machine guns, Tommy guns, riding the cars through the streets? That was during alcohol prohibition. Now you're starting to see that. Talk about two new events that just happened this week. Now, there was a third event that happened just a couple of weeks ago. If you remember, there was a mom who had been victimized with break-ins at her house. She got a surveillance camera. She got a gun. She protected her children from 3 thugs who were trying to do a home invasion. Death, a teenager who was trying to break into his home. And as the police chief pointed out, he says, you're confronted with an immediate threat to your safety. You're not going to have time to deal 911. It becomes an issue of the threat is here. I have to respond to the threat. He gets it. We all need a police chief like that. Fortunately, we're starting to win this war. We're starting to see several law enforcement officers like police chiefs starting to say that. We've got a police chief here in California. We got another article who is this police, and the police caught the guy. She ran them off, and the police caught them. What would happen in a place like New York or Chicago? Well, that mom would be a criminal in the first place for even getting a gun to defend herself. And they probably wouldn't have caught the criminal. They usually don't. And then they would have arrested and prosecuted her. But as I pointed out in that video, just this last week in Detroit, you had a woman who had a concealed carry permit, shot and killed a man who was attempting to carjack her vehicle. In another case, you had a homeowner who shot to